Going to share with us, and we'll get our program started here. Thanks to everybody for coming in.
Get John here. This will be more Arkansas stories and songs. All of it's local. And the people that write the songs, we're doing Mike Gavin. Well, I was intending to do Think of Shirley, but I think we're going to cut that one out because we've got the short and the broken. So anyway, we'll start with Mike Gavin's song of going back to Arkansas. There are many places I've laid my head, many places I'll never be. But of all the places I've ever been, Arkansas is where I want to be. What's that sound I hear like white water running? I thought I heard the White River call. I've had me a dream, but it took me long to find it. Now I'm going back to Arkansas. To your sunny cotton fields in the Delta, to them small pine trees reaching to the sky. From Little Rock right through the middle, I hear Ozark Mountain fiddles calling me voice. Why you been so long? So no matter how far I've ever wandered, and no matter how far I'll ever roam, there's only one place in this world I'll ever call home. I'll sing your praises, Arkansas, you're my song. Now, Arkansas is the best state to read about, write about, sing about, joke about, or just anything else about. I reckon because it's got so many sides. It's got the north side, the south side, the east side, the west side, inside, the outside, the upside, and the downside. Now, everybody can see a different side. It's got the clear side, the muddy side, the political side, the Democratic side, and the Republican side. And the more you get to thinking about that, the more you realize that each side is worse than the other. It's got the farming side, the mining side, the hunting side, and the fishing side. Why, even the lies we tell on this state are the truth. Got the long side, the short side, the human side, the man's side, and the woman's side. It's the only state mentioned in the Bible. The Bible says Noah looked out of the ark and saw. Now, I know this guy from Arkansas one time said he was going to go way out west and grow up with civilization. Well, he got as far as Oklahoma, went broke, got up and hit it real bad. He had to sell his dog for the money to get back to Arkansas. Now he had this beautiful, half-grown, well-bred, half-hound dog pup. And he had to sacrifice that beautiful creature for $1.50. He told me if he'd have still had that dog when he got back to Arkansas, he could have got $15 for him just like that. All right, this song is about the big fight that happened up at Timbo, and Hooper Gilbert's dad, Oscar, wrote this song. Well, Christmas of 1925, I went to Timbo just to be in style. I didn't know I was going to get to see a show till somebody ran right out the door. I no sooner got into the yard when somebody throwed a bucket of lard. The lard had gone right to the house and hit Collie Dodson in the mouth. Well, Austin Gamble with his pistol crew, he said, "First Clark, I'm gonna shoot you." He no sooner give that sharp command, the Clark knocked him out with a roasted pan. Now you was Clark with his slender arm, he reached and sis, don't give a damn. He turned up his jug and took another dram. Well, now I've sung you now all I know, and all I see on that show, and now I'm in a great big hurry. I'll do you the best at the 8th of January. Now the 8th has passed and the trial is over. A little brown jug we have no more. The judge, he sat right on that throne. He throwed the thing out and sent us all home. Mentioned in that was a guy named Andy Guppy. And I know some of you people might have heard of Andy Guppy, but he taught the one-room school down in Jones's Bottom Schoolhouse when my parents went to school. So I'm assuming that fight happened at the schoolhouse at Dimbo on Christmas Day. So I happened to get to go to the one-room school one time when the roads got so bad that we couldn't get to Pleasant Grove. They had to crank the school back up and put us in there for one term at the schoolhouse. And I don't think we was the last one, so I think it was another one-room schoolhouse went on past the one we done. But anyway, my dad went to the one-room schools, and he was telling me some stories about he liked to go to school, so even after the 8th grade, which is all they do down there in Jones's Bottom, he went and sat in on the other schools. Well, later on, I found out some of the other ones he went to. Betsy Moore was teacher at St. James off of the Dugan and Cajun Creek Hills there, and Daddy had went on and sat in some classes with Betsy, and she told me some stories about that. And then the big one was, they was having the Curtis King Day. I know everybody knows who Curtis King was, one of the greatest heroes that you've ever had around here. And the whole state celebrated Curtis King. Well, Mountain View had to get in on the act, so they brought Curtis King up here for the big celebration. So we're in the pool hall with all these other drifters that always hang around with him. Same bunch all the time, and then Curtis comes in and he knows them all. You know, him and Harold Wade and all them people, they're over there talking. So Harold said, "Come over here, Junior, and meet Curtis King." Said, "You're always in the sports program here," and he's made it a legend here in the state on being with the sports program. So I went over and they said, "This is Albert Fulks, his son." Curtis said, "Oh, I've got to tell him some stories about me and Albert." Said he went to school with me. Said, when my first assignment, when I was 18-year-old, he said, a great big strapping young guy, and I got my teaching certificate, they sent me to Dugan, right on the banks of the Cajun Creek there in Dugan, to teach my first one-room school. And he said, I got down there, and the second day of class, 3 of them Canard boys come in, and they advised him that he was going to have to leave. They didn't need any teacher in that school. And he said, they told him if he didn't leave peacefully, they was going to run him off. Throw him out of there and run him off. Well, he said he went right ahead of cleaning the board and wiping them, and then them 3 boys attacked him. And they had him down, about to throw him out, and my dad walked in the front door. And he said he hadn't been there long enough to know which side he was going to take in this argument, but he said he was sure glad when he got that biggest one and drug him off of him, because he could handle the other 2. And he said when he got them boys corralled, he took them over there and set them down. He said, "Now, boys, I guess you know you could be in real trouble over this. But he said, if you will not cause any more trouble, I won't say a word about this to the authorities or your parents." And he said they never had a bit of trouble the rest of the time. Back to singing again, Jeff. This is Michael Thompson's song about living on the old dirt roads. Well, there's a certain kind of life that rattled my head, and it's more than the sun that made me neck turn red. The days of my youth I read and recall on them dusty old roads back in Arkansas. We came from Kentucky, Virginia, Tennessee, Long Island, New York is where the accent began. Got here in 1840, so and been here ever since on The ones I lived on was called the Guyan Road. It was a WPA road built back in the 30s, and it was dusty, believe me. Me and Robbie had to move off because of the dust. We couldn't take it. So anyway, that road run right by the one-room schoolhouse Sergeant Jones Bottom, and right on the end of the river where the Guyan Ferry was. Now, I'm sure that some people remember the ferry days. And the Guyan Ferry might have been the worst one in the entire bunch. But when I was a kid, it was an old wooden boat that somebody had made. And it leaked. And I mean, they had to keep the water pumped out of it or it would sink. So one day a drifter come into Guyan, and he said that he was a handyman, would like to do something. So they said, well, how about running the ferry boat? So they said they didn't even ask who he was or anything, they just needed a ferry boat. So the guy said his name was Mr. Lee. That's all anybody knew, he was Mr. Lee. And so they said, all right, you can run the ferry boat. So he gets over there, and one of my cousins was running the boat, and he was ready to retire. So he helped him get started and get all these, learned him how to run the boat, and he said, well, where can I live? And they said, well, there's all kinds of old shacks up there on the ridge where these timber cutters and sawmillers went up and bought all that land up for the taxes, cut the timber for 4 or 5 years, and moved on. Paid the taxes one time. I saw a report one time where as little as 12 cents an acre they got the timber off of that places for. Well, anyway, they fixed him up and moved him into this old shack, and he got to running the ferry boat. Well, it wasn't long till he got to make it home through and taking it down to the ferry boat. Well, people were sitting around all over the place. Helping him run that ferry. He had plenty of help. Well, and then that progressed into Wildcat whiskey. He got him a still, and he set it up over one of the springs over there by his house. And so they sat around down the ferry boat. Well, one day my Uncle Hubert Burns made a load of stave bolts, and they'd been selling them bolts at Leslie. And they had the biggest mill in the country over at Leslie, but they had a new market had opened up over at Milford. And he heard they was paying $5 more over at Milford. So he decided to take that load to Milford. Well, he pulls up to that ferry boat, and here's all them people having their party down there. Well, he drives his truck right on that ferry boat. They get out in the river, and it just starts slowly sinking. Oh my God. Well, it sat right down on the bottom of the river. Well, they forgot to dip the water out before they started. So it wasn't long until the news got around to all of us that lived right in the area that the Uncle Hubert's truck was in the bottom of the river over there with a load of stave bolts on it. So we all gathered up our rowboats and fishing boats and went down and loaded them bolts up 2 or 3 at a time and hauled them over to the Izard County side. We got that boat unloaded. Well, somebody rounded up a road grader on the other side and got them unloaded and hooked the cable to that boat and drug up Hubert's truck and the boat out all together. Well, it turns out all right. Hubert got his extra $5 a quart for them bolts, and he made a little money on that deal. But while all this was going on, somebody come by and told Mr. Lee, they said there was a deputy and 2 other policemen, looked like, come by asking about you, and they was going over to your house. So Mr. Lee looked over to Euless Belcher and my cousin Euless, and he said, would you take me to Newport? He said, I'll pay you $20 to take me to Newport. It was worth about $2 or $3 at the time. Euless said, well, for $20, let's go. I said, when do you want to go? And he said, right now. So Euless looked over at me and said, Junior, ride along with us. So I rode along with him, and we're going down to Newport. And we get there, and he said, pull me up to this Front Street bar over here at the Blue Room. He said, I'll run in and get some change and come back and pay you. And all I've got's a $100 bill. Well, he run in there. We sat there about 15 minutes. I said, Euless, he might have got attacked in there. I said, that's a pretty mean place. They might be a fountain in there. Let's go in and see him. So we went in to see about him. Of course, we knew the people running the place. They was from Stone County, too. So we walked in and we said, what happened to Mr. Lee? Oh, he said, Mr. Lee, he just come through and never stopped to talk to anybody. Went right on out the back door. Well, that's the last time we ever saw Mr. Lee. And that was mean, it was a big loss to the community to lose a guy like that, because while he had been helping all the neighbors, he'd been helping himself too. So he'd stole the flim flam every neighbor in the country. And while the law was over at his place, when they come out a couple of days later, they sat there and wait on him, and he never did come back home. Well, they come out with a whole truckload of stuff, including his steel and all the stuff he'd stole from the neighbors. Truckloads in there. What was I going to say next, Jeff? Forgot. Oh, the story of the White River Monster. Everybody knows about this White River Monster. Jimmy Driftwood told me this story about the White River Monster. I used to work with Jimmy Driftwood some back in the 60s and 70s, and we had some secret projects that went on. I'll tell you about them someday, but the statute of limitation might not have run out yet, so I'll have to be careful about some of this stuff I do. But Jimmy told me that he come up with this White River Monster story, and it was big in the news at the time. So he got to study it, and he concocted an unbelievable story. I didn't even believe it. He come up and he said, this White River Monster lives in the Sargasso Sea. And every 40 years, that monster swims that Gulf of Mexico, comes over into the Mississippi River, up in Arkansas, and right up the White River, and she lays eggs all up and down that river. And he said, them eggs are going to hatch on December the 21st, 2012. So he predicted the monster will start being seen in July in the river. And he said, now I won't be alive, Junior, when this happens, but he said, you'll have to be the one that goes ahead and tells his story. Well, I mean, it was such a story that I didn't hardly believe it. But I've got to believe in it now. I mean, I think he was right. And that White River Monster is going to be here. And them eggs are going to hatch. Well, anyway, Jimmy was a animal rights activist too. So he said, we've got to get down to Little Rock and get the legislature to pass some laws to protect that White River Monster and all the little monsters when they hatch. So we went to Little Rock, and he got his senator buddy Robert Harvey from down Swifton to present it to the legislature. Well, instead of doing the entire length of the river, Mr. Harvey, he cut it down to just a 6-mile stretch from Jacksonport to Possum Grant to make the White River Monster a safe haven. So anyway, it's on the law books here in Arkansas. It is illegal to harm, molest, or trample that White River Monster while he's in his native environment. Oh yeah, another one I was going to tell about. Back in the 60s, I know everybody was there in the 60s. Things was the very best here in the late 60s in this country. We had everything going our way. We had Wilbur Mills in Congress. We got Rockefeller elected governor. And Lyndon Johnson got to be president. I mean, how much better can it be? So we're going along there one morning, I'm sitting watching TV, and Lyndon Johnson comes on. And he said, I am declaring a war on poverty. He said, the whole country is going to have a war on poverty. Well, the first shot in that war was fired right here in Stone County. Yeah. I went to town a couple of days later, and there's my pool hall buddy sitting there, the same bunch of loafers that's always there. And I walk in, and I said, there's Ray Burns is sitting there. I said, Ray, what do you think about this war on poverty? He said, well, I don't think that us poor people ought to have a war declared on us. and Howard Wade was sitting over there, and Howard said, well, Junior, he said, I think it's a good thing. He said, 2 people on my block surrendered this morning. Well, they started up this poverty school. They rounded up everybody that didn't have anything to do, which was almost everybody in our country. And they paid them to go to school. I mean, they brought them up here, and they was going to train them, and they paid them to go to school. Well, they just started the party lines really good down our way, and that's all you could hear on the party line, what was happening up at the poverty school. I mean, it was just unbelievable what the things that they tell. And So Jimmy Driftwood was sitting there on the square one day, and he said, now I want you to look at this, Junior. He said, this has created a whole new breed of people. And they moved this Blanchard shirt factory in to work. And all these women they trained up got them a job. Well, most of them couldn't drive a car. So somebody had to take them to work and go get them. So Jimmy said, I'm going to write a song called the Arkansas Go-Getter. So here's the song. Jeff can get that guitar too. Oh, the Arkansas Go-Getter. He gets him a wife, then he gets her a job, then she buys him a car, and he takes her to work every morning. Then he'll go to the pool room or down by the river or sit down at the bar. But when she gets off from work, he'll be right there to get her. That's why we call him the Arkansas Go-Getter. I'm going to do this tempo song again because Hoover just got here. And Hoover's dad wrote this song, and they used to live at tempo. Well, at Christmas of 1925, I went to Timbo to try to be installed. I didn't know I was going to get to see a show till somebody ran right out the door. Well, I know Sue stepped through the yard. Somebody throwed a bucket of lard. The lard had come right through the house and hit Golly Dodson in the mouth. Austin Gamble with his pistol drew. He said, Clarence Clark, I'm gonna shoot you. Clarence no sooner killed that sharp little man. Clarence knocked him out with a roasting pan. Well, he was Clark with his slender arm. He reached and got him a smoothing arm. He throwed it at his level best and hit Andy Guppy right in the breast. Well, Fitch Doc Maxie with a hammer in his hand. He said, Fish, Dodson, you better stand. Fish said, Doc, I don't have to stand. He reached right out and grabbed it from his hand. Well, Sis Sproul was a mighty fine woman. Said, Otis Powell, you're a goner. Otis said, Sis, I don't give a damn. He turned up the junk and took another dram. Well, now I've sung you about all I know and all I see to hold that show. And now I'm in a great big hurry. I'll do you the rest of the 8th of January. Well, they all got a summons and an invite too to be at that courthouse in Mountain View. The place was crowded, every seat was packed, and some people looked right through the cracks. Now the 8th is past and the trial is over. The little brown judge we have no more. The judge he sat up on his throne, throwed the case out and sent us all home. Forgot about that. Any questions you want to ask?
Who's that little lady guitar with you?
Sutterfield.
Oh, that's a,
Which one?
I was gonna ask you, how will we know if those eggs are gonna hatch on December the 21st?
Well, Jimmy Driftwood was he done all kinds of things, you know. I mean, I actually shouldn't tell
You
you.
never told no lie.
Well, no, but he could do all kinds of things, and he was kind of a magic man. Who needed enough thing on him? But he got into brainwave transfers and consultations and seances, and I mean, he could get back to history, and he knew he was in time with Mother Nature and Father Time both. So he knew exactly what was going on. So he gets this story about the eggs going to hatch on the 21st.
This year.
So yeah.
Yeah.
December the 21st of this year. And I've already got my spot over to Bird Rock fixed out. Because the Buncher used to hang out at Bird Rock a lot. You know, and there's a monstrous cave. I know, anybody know anything about Bird Rock? See if I've ever been there. It's historic. Lots of historical things happen at Bird Rock. But It's right down here about 6 miles. You can look, of course they don't got it marked or anything, but you can walk right over the edge of the river and look off. It's 300 feet straight down to the river. And when you get to the river, there's another 100 feet underneath that it goes down, and there's a big cave down there, and that's where the white river monster hangs out most of the time. Yeah, he loved that, and he's laid lots of eggs there. It's the only time nobody's ever explored this cave. But, I mean...
And you think that's where the big thing's going to happen?
Yes, that's one of the big, all up down the river, but that's going to be the main...
Is that in the protected area?
No, it's not in the protected area.
Oh, no.
So them sportsmen might be in there with their harpoons and everything, trying to get them a little monster to hang on. I mean, we're really concerned about that. I can't hardly take it, even thinking.
No, you watch it.
No, I'm telling you, that's something. There's just one thing that you forgot to do, and that was your Guy and Fairy love song.
Oh, give me that guitar. I can't believe we forgot to do Guy and Fairy blues. I got to tell this story first. Now, I lived with this Guy and Fairy, and the ferry got a little more modern. We had a pretty good ferry come in, but you still couldn't get across. If the wind was blowing, they wouldn't put you across. If the water was up or down, they wouldn't put you across. I mean, you had all kinds of problems crossing that ferry. So I wrote a song about it. It caused a big flood come one time, and we didn't get across the river for nearly a month. Well, I was going with this girl from Gavin. And she got married to a preacher while we were and I went over after river got down, and I drove by her house, and her mom was sitting on the porch. So I get out there, and I'm sitting there talking to her mom, and I said, well, what happened to the daughter? And she said, well, did you hear? Said they had a revival last week, and she just married the preacher and left with him. She married him go. So here's the song about the Guy and Fairy blues. He lived right there by you. Right across from the school. Yeah.
Junior, you forgot to introduce your guitar player.
Oh, this is Jeff Sutterfield. Jeff and I played together ever since Jeff was old enough to get on the stage.
Yeah.
What, 2 or 3 year old at least. So we've done all kinds of crazy things together, and he does a pretty good job on that guitar.
Yeah.
He tried to follow me, I mean, it's unreal. We out of time, or is there any more questions?
What's going to happen to people with possum grape? That's where I'm from.
And possum grape, that's the end of the protected area where the White River Monster, it's a 6-mile stretch from the Jackson Ford State Park to Possum Grape. And I called the park. They have shows about the White River Monster, and the interpreter down there does stories about the White River Monster. And I asked them, I said, is them signs still up? I said, I remember one time I come through and I saw the signs about the White River Monster Refuge, and they had it marked off. And she said, there's only one of them signs still up. The rest of them fell down, and nobody's put them back up. So I don't know why they wouldn't put them up, because you hear that our big event's fixing to happen again, and they're out of touch. All right, Dad. We're kind of in a hurry here to get on that funeral.
Program today, like I say, because of the funeral, but there'll be some of us stay around if anybody would like to tour the museum, but I guess we'll conclude the program.
Talking about benefits and
Yeah, we haven't worked out any details.